Daily Duos with Fatch and Pamstou, brought to you by Somebody's Gun. What's going on, my guys? I am a little sick today, so decided to have fun with it. Gonna be a little stuffy, so I apologize, but we're still gonna learn things. Let's go. Alright, enough of that. Let's talk. Let's figure out what's going on. We got Fatch and Pamstou. This is the French-Canadian duo coming out of NA East, and personal bias, big fan of these two. Great kids, had the opportunity to speak with them a couple of times. Really, really hoping they do well during the Invitational, so, just had to throw that out there before we get into it. Now, from a purely thought perspective, removing the bias, I think they have a great opportunity to do well, specifically because they've been landing what they call French split, which is pretty much this entire area. So this whole thing is where they've been landing for pretty much the whole chapter, and they look to have this unconned. I don't expect to see anyone contest them during that, and that will help them a ton because they are going to be more familiar with their drop spot than most players landing at certain spots. Yes, some will be familiar, but a lot of people that are landing at good spots are likely to get contested. These guys are landing at a meh spot. I wouldn't call it good. I wouldn't call it bad. They'll walk away with enough to play a game every single time, but they're not getting vaults. They're not getting the best loot in the game, so they're okay with that, and they've learned how to play with that. Being uncon to them is more important, and I think that's huge. And I think they'll also get to do things like this where they rotate into Shiny or Sleepy, make plays, try and take some shots on players. And for them, the biggest issue in the past has been Storm Surge. And I think they're now more adept at dealing with Storm Surge than they were in the past. We've seen them go down a couple of times, having troubles with the Storm Surge in the past, but in recent seasons that hasn't been much of an issue, and I think they've learned how to play with that. They're also working with Sven, the coach. That has helped them a ton. Hearing a little reboot action here. Oh, this is cheesy. Letting the player come back just to get an extra elim. This poor guy comes back with a pistol. His teammate's like, bruh. Oh, this is Smite and Larson. This is actually a duo that they're going to wind up having to deal with from time to time. I don't know that Smite and Larson will be contested, but looks like chalk one up to Pamstou and Fatch this game. To be fair, it's not necessarily the fairest of fights. They just got rebooted, so it is what it is. We'll speed this up. If you guys don't know, Fatch is the IGL, Pamstou is the fragger. These two been playing together since trios and have been a great duo together. Seem to be getting better. I mean, Fatch has been around since World Cup days. They played together at Gamers 8. I think that even they would admit they wish they did better. But they set high expectations for themselves. It's not simply just playing well in a tournament. They want to win tournaments. I had Fatch on the FN story, and he talked about it's not even about money anymore at this point. I just want to be able to win. Oh, they're just farming kids getting rebooted. Look at that. This poor guy. His teammate can't even do anything. But yeah, for Fatch, it's more like those bragging rights, being able to say he's an FNCS champion. And I'm sure it's the same for Pamstou. I mean, granted, the money's nice. And I guess Pamstou did win the Invitational, the solo showdown or whatever it was called. Nonetheless, we see these guys put themselves on dead side, so understanding they're good on Storm Surge, going to get themselves deep in the storm. And Snazadon goes down by a third party here. So we're going to see them push this. Pam going to grab himself another nice little elim. And they ain't afraid to get aggressive. That's one thing that I've definitely seen out of this duo is they're not known for being the greatest fighters in the world or anything like that, but at times they do like to play a little more passive. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think they just understand how to get there and get where they want to be. So, all that to be said, they can do whatever the heck they want. They're good enough to do whatever the heck they want. And I think they've only been getting better as the year went on. And they're kind of peaking at the right time. Hopefully continue to over the next month as we go in to the Invitational. Now we're just chilling. And we're seeing the typical loadouts. Hammer, Prime. Hammer, Prime. That's an Evo Chrome. You know, that's what that means. Alright, they found a solo. This poor guy. They're getting aggro. Rocane Dog. It's only a matter of time. These two are too good. And now they have an extra pad. I would expect them to tarp in the zone or bring their extra pad back to their old base. No, they don't wind up doing that. Looks like Lawrence was behind them. Nice little shield bubble to protect them along the way. It's a smart use of that. I mean, they don't really need to use the shield bubble, but they make sure to just because they have it. And boom, they're chilling. We're like off center of Fort Zone. The entirety of Zone is now here in a line. And I just want you guys to look. Let's do blue. So this, the entirety of the zone, entirety of this lobby is all in this one area. And then there's just some teams scattered throughout. But it's interesting how everyone has been forced to play this. And because Fatch and Pamstou made that early move to rotate over to where they're at, and then punish some solos on the backside of the lobby, they were able to do this, put themselves in a really good spot here. I don't like this new bug where you just can't see through the cone sometimes. Looks like they're going to be using a launch pad. Nice, smart move to go get the extra one. And the unwritten rule, once zone starts moving, everyone pads, so just find your spot, pad. And these guys typically like to play a lower level. So regularly play low to mid ground, but I think the big evolution from these two that I've seen over the past year has been a tendency to play high ground at times when it's available. So I think that versatility in playing multiple different layers helps them out a ton. But they're just chilling. There's no reason to make edits now. You just wait, gain info as what's going on around you. You're going to be padding next zone, so all you need to do is make sure you got enough space to pad next zone. See Fatch taking a peek. What you want to do is avoid getting covered here. And they're likely going to pad out of that box. That's why Fatch made that earlier. The one without the cone. Yes, this one he's looking at now. And so this is a fine line, right? You need to be able to pad out of that box before you get buried, but you also want to maximize the amount of space that you can cover with that pad. So let's see. Pad comes down. Boom. Gonna hit the pad. Go right next to height. Hide behind some builds. Then put themselves front side low. What you want to avoid doing here is going down, though. You don't want to get stuck too far down. Oh, polarized, bro. Dude. Well played. Those guys just perfectly boxed and bopped them. Nice little refresh. Nice little upgrade in the shoddy. And they've pretty much spent no mats here. And we see a little bit of that wood build usage. Just to save a little bit extra. Now Zone's going to pull back. Fatch smartly dives into Storm. They have all these splashes. So it's not an issue for them to go take a little storm damage to get a free pad off. And that's actually a really smart move. So they're going to get front side. Not low again. Oh. It's just so efficient. Fatch is always looking for those plays. I would not have seen that. Anyway, we're continuing here on front side low. They've used their pads. Trying to get some refreshes. They do get a knockdown. They don't get the elim, but at least get the knockdown. Fatch doing a good job of keeping them on the front side there. And they just claimed all that space. Now they're getting bullied a little bit from down below. But it doesn't really matter. They have good awareness of what's going on. Just sitting, trying to wait for that backside. Zone pulls up again. This is a shambles rotate. But we see how close they are. Always right together. So they're just making moves together and allows them to be much more effective when they make plays. Because they know how one another play. So instead of having to communicate everything at all times, they're able to put themselves in spots where I know X or Y, like Fatch is going to want to play like this or Pamstou is going to want to play like that. So this is an interesting one. They just get taken down. Pamstou needs to get back to Fatch. Boom. They do that. Executed great. Trying to train mats over. And then this is a dangerous play. I don't like this. But this is kind of a necessary. I don't know that this is necessary. They have a ton of mats. But they go all in for this. Fight somebody here on the backside of zone. And it's ultimately going to cause them to go down. Pamstou doesn't have a ton of mats left. He spends basically all he has. Zone is going to pull back, which allows him to sit in this box just for a little longer. But he will eventually go down. So that game was going really well. And I understand what they were doing, right? We were going to try and get that two-person refresh. That's minimum 30 builds. But they controlled no space down there. And then as soon as that other team was on it, they either should have tried to push that other team, like take the right side and then box fight them. But knowledge of where zone is, we need to just move on from that one. We can't necessarily overcommit to that refresh when we don't absolutely need it. If both of them had 0 builds, cool. But they had about 45, 50 builds in total. And I think that's more than enough to continue moving, look for another play rather than all in on that refresh. Nonetheless, really hope these guys do well. Shouts out Pamstou and Fatch. Always appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching as well. Peace.